Oh, welcome everybody. Today's little session is just on the most common defects that are popping up on a regular occurrence on site during mandatory inspections, particularly in the carpentry area. Most of you will sort of say, well, that's pretty obvious, Ken, who would do that? But it does happen, and the inspectors are reporting back to me saying, well, it's happening on a regular occurrence, whether it's lack of attention to detail or lack of training, whatever. But I thought I'd share these few particular points and then ultimately aims us closer to approving the inspection first time instead of second or third time, which is what we all want to do. The first stage is your mandatory subfloor inspection. Those that know how I roll and have done forever is I list it as a mandatory inspection, I price for it as a mandatory inspection, so the client's already paid for it as a mandatory inspection. Cannot be done with the flooring half done or the insulation half installed. Like everyone on site, there's OH&S issues, yes, absolutely. But for the inspector to do his job properly, and when he gets questioned by the VBA or a third-party inspector, he can freely advise them what he saw, what he inspected, without any hesitation. So with subfloor inspections, four major things that keep popping up. And number one is the bearer clearance. Now, you'll know now that the Australian standard for termite protection, the new one, is well and truly in. There's multiple options on what systems you can use, but you've got to have selected that system before you actually start the build, because the more complex the build, the more complex the installation of your termite barrier. But in general terms, you need your minimum 400 clearance bearer. 400, so you'd be amazed the amount of times it's 300, it's 350. 400 is the minimum, okay? If you need to excavate, especially for additions, you need to be satisfied, especially on non-sand sites, all your different types of clay soils, silty sands, that your excavation below the subfloor also continues beyond the building footprint, so you don't create a dam underneath. Because as we all know, what does a dam underneath a house do? Yeah, it's smelly, it's mozzies and it's mould, but most importantly on clay sites, it causes soil movement, soil reactivity, foundation failure. I've seen the best of strip footings crack because the ground level below the house was lower than the ground level on the outside of the house. And that's even with the best tanking and agricultural drains installed on the outside. So it's not an area to be underrated. Yes, you've got to protect against termites 100% because they're everywhere. All the myths have been blown apart as to what particular timber they like, what soil conditions they like, all that sort of thing. I've seen evidence of them in existence pretty well in everything. So you can't undersell that. But absolutely, in your non-sand sites, you've got to really review and consider what the end result of your drainage system is going to be. And yes, we've all done additions where that existing house is close to the ground. You can't match that, we know that. So an alternative. We try to pick it up at plan checking stage to sort of get that detail from the designers. Not always easy. You guys on the ground, you've been on site a number of times before you started the job, when you quoted the job, and you go, whoa. That's the time when you need to work it out. And if you need further details, then you go back to the designer, run it past us, and then we move forward happily thereafter. But that's numero uno. Number two is bearer joins not being supported. Those that are in my vintage would remember 4x3s, one piece of timber, run it through, support the joins, away you go. Of course, we don't have that anymore. It's double 90x45s, nail laminated, joints staggered. All those joins have got to be supported. The amount of times that they are not, it does your head in. Again, go back to the purpose of the subfloor inspection. We're your spare set of eyes. Things get missed. We all miss stuff. That's why we work together as a team. So don't take this as any sort of criticism. And as I say, most of you are sort of thinking, well, that's 101 carpentry, that's 101 carpentry. Yes, it is, but it's still the most common area of fault when we're doing inspections. Number three, the notching of floor joists or the ripping out of joists to accommodate shower bases. Waterproofing and shower bases is the industry's nightmare, still has been for decades, still the highest claim areas, all of the above. But clearly, if your subfloor framing is not rigid, doesn't matter how good your membrane's going to be, it will fail. It cannot afford bounce or movement. So, over ripping of your joists, or when you lower your floor joists and butt them to the bearers in between, not just a couple of skew nails. Do it properly, full saddle brackets, or even better still, bang in another couple of stumps and bearers. That's when you make your decisions. I'm not telling you how to do your job. I'm just saying these things, some of the constant things that we pick up on a regular basis. Number 4, which has become another common trend at the moment, not sure why, to go for larger span bearers. So double 140 by 45s or double 190 by 45s. If you're using concrete stumps, order the longer pins. They do it. They manufacture them to whatever you like. Becomes problematic and a pain in the ass job to do remedial works or extension of rods or additional plates and cleats and bolts to each and every stump because not ordering stumps with a longer pin. As I say, to most of you this will be one-on-one and you're saying, we got it covered. Well, cool, you guys are going fine. And I'm sure most of you are. Okay, frame inspections. Well, number 1, guys, as you know, we issue building permits pretty well 99.9% of the time with a condition on it. And that is when you get your engineering for your roof truss design, you supply us with the calcs before we do the frame inspection so we can check the calcs are correct, got the right loads, right spans. Doesn't happen so much these days, but you'd be amazed, I reckon, not that long ago, probably 1 in 30 jobs had the wrong roof load on the design for the trusses. And, you're all savvy enough to know the impact of a truss design designed for a metal roof when it should be a tiled roof. It's called failure. Sometimes the point loads are in a different spot to what the engineers have allowed for. They're the 2 major hits that we find when we're checking engineering calculations. So we cannot, and we're not allowed to, approve frames without the truss comps. So once you've got the order in place, just tell the truss company to send them straight through to us if you like. It's all electronic, it's easy. Again, it's not the old days where you got to give me 3 copies of all those calcs and that. Remember those days? You guys there that remember them? So it is that simple, keeps it smooth, and ultimately we're your spare eyes. Not telling you how to do the job. Never want to be in that position. We've got enough to deal with ourselves. So absolutely make sure you got the truss comp sent through. Otherwise, it's not approved and you're up for another re-inspection before we've even been on site. So next point is the point loads. Got to be picked up. Girder trusses. Needs their double studs. If you're getting prefab walls and trusses, somebody's got to go around and check the point loads. Also, they've got to be blocked to the bearer, and under the bearer you've got to have a brick pier or a stump. Pretty straightforward, but still to this day one of the most common defects on frames. Shear blocks is your next item. They are required, whether that we used to do it in the old days or not, that's history. The way it is now is it's in the code. It's on all engineering, the detail on how to do the shear blocks. And you need shear blocks for all internal required braced walls. So it doesn't have to be load bearing. If it's a required braced wall, it's deemed structural and therefore you need the shear blocks. In addition to that, even though it's non-load bearing and you don't have joists directly below that wall, you need to block out the joists below that wall. Again, a common oversight and a common item on the frame inspections. So with modern technology, we're seeing innovations of brackets and screws like there's no tomorrow. Basically Meccano set stuff. But the latest trend and the new evolution of these fantastic screws of anchoring or substituting for hoop iron ties from your top and bottom plates to your studs. The ones that you can use are the ones that are tested. Okay, and they're tested to withstand a certain force, which demonstrates that it complies with 1684. The challenge, of course, is where the frames are built on site and the screws are installed on site. When you stand up the frame, how does the inspector know where and how many screws you put in? Because bear in mind, we're talking the bottom plate and the top plate, of course. When you get a prefabricated wall system, they've already marked the bases of the studs, top and bottom, to indicate where the screws have been installed. So we would ask for simplicity, and it saves any confusion or doubt. Someone run around with a marker pen before you stand your walls up where the screws have been installed. Then the inspector can go around, oh yeah, bang, done. Just makes life easier for everybody and saves an extra half dozen calls. What sort of screws? Bear in mind, not all screws comply, right? If you've used them already, you'd notice the thread is wider. That's to get more bite. That's what has the pull-out resistance. You'll know how easy it is to strip a normal screw in the end grain of a stud. That's why its pull-out capacity is not much. That's not okay from Queensland. That's not much, okay? So the new wave of some of the architectural designs is for the wider, shallower windows sitting up higher, not necessarily in a load-bearing wall, but you do understand, and again, this is another point that gets missed, is your sill trimmers, your 90 by 35s are not big enough to keep the wall robust. And your studs are often up to 1.7, 1.8 high to the underside of your windowsill. They need noggins, because your maximum spacing in noggins is 1350, right? But your sill trimmers need to be doubled up, or even in some cases increased to F17 or a larger cross-sectional size. Doesn't matter that they're load-bearing, it's the flapping effects in the breeze, right? And the last point I'll bring up is, and again, a lot of this is detailed on the engineering nowadays, is when you have internal load-bearing beams and there's a particular connection detail, the item commonly missed is the actual anchorage and strapping of that connection. Okay, so you've got it supported absolutely, but you've still got that anchorage requirement. And as I say, whilst the advancement of engineering in house construction now is pretty well taken over, the majority of engineering we see now have those details covered. So smash out those items and, the job just runs smoother and everyone's happier. So just one last thing before we go, final inspections. Everybody's fully aware of what owners and clients see on TV shows and these open showers, no doors, with the screens that do not much protection as far as waterproofing of the bathroom. As I said earlier, still the highest claim in the industry is the waterproofing of bathrooms. You can only do the best you can. We try to knock it off a plan checking stage and we ask the designers, fully enclosed or not. The Australian standard 3740 for waterproofing of wet areas is a reasonable size. It's got more variations than you poke a stick at. We sort of keep it to a simplistic format, and the bottom line is, if you can't screen the shower area from the rows, it needs to be enclosed. Or you plan well in ahead before you start the build, along with your termite stuff, have this discussion with your client in case they change their mind, because that's what we get at the final. We issue the building permit showing it fully enclosed with a door, and then we turn up for a final and there's a 900 screen at the one side of the shower, a walk-in, walk-out scenario. And the standard line we get back, oh, the client wanted it. Well, guess what? If it doesn't comply with the code, the client can't have it. So have this discussion with them earlier to say, look, if you're thinking about this, now's the time. Because if you use a screen that's too small, in KWA's interpretation at least, if you put in a second floor waste, grade the floor outside the shower area and waterproof the entire floor, that's deemed compliant in my book. Okay, so the challenge of determining when you're screening adequately or not is twofold, and this is another variable too. So if your shower rose comes out of the wall, you measure a 1500 millimetre straight line arc from that point. So anywhere within that arc, if the screen doesn't totally block that arc from going outside the shower area, it's not big enough. And you either have to put a door on it, or you look at outside the drainage waterproofing of that area. So obviously in a concrete slab, you need to know about this earlier than later, because putting in a floor waste and grading falls and everything else after you pour concrete, problematic. Not much easier with a timber floor either, but it can be done. So 1500 millimetres is the measurement, that's what you use for a gauge. Now the real clanger is when the client says, actually I don't want it on the wall like it's drawn, I want it through the ceiling. The 1500 is measured from the hole in the ceiling. So that magnifies the problem to a degree where you've got to fully enclose the shower, or you've just got to do the whole floor as I described with the falls. Yeah, you've got trench grate systems you can utilise and stuff like that, absolutely, you can be creative, but waterproofing, water resistance of the floors and full drainage of the floors is your easy scapegoat out. And that, along with your rigid supporting construction, fingers crossed, we've got no issues 5, 6, 7 years down the track with any water damage. So I hope that helps. It's just things that have jumped out on a regular basis. And as always, the rules keep changing. We've got more rules to deal with every day. I've said to many of you, I don't know them all anymore. I've got to look it up myself. And that's why I've got a young crew coming along. And on that subject, I do have one vacancy for another technical person to fill the team. You know what I'm like. People who don't mind to work for a living and, put their best foot forward every time they show up for work. So if you happen to know somebody that fits that bill, completed their studies and looking to move on, if they think they can fit my bill and KWA's brand, put them on to me and I'll gladly have a chat to them. All the best, stay safe and see you soon.